Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to have a discussion today about how Kuro Games has kind of just absolutely completely fucked up. And I'm not actually talking about the new endgame. I'm talking about some of the promises that they made when it came to this new endgame. And what I'm gonna actually need over here is some supporting material from Kuro Games. So one of the big things about Doubled Pawn Matrix, when it got announced and when it got teased, was the fact that we had this really nice screen over here. And let me just show you how amazing these mockups look. Called Resonator Enhancements. And when you look at this screen over here, a couple of things really call out to you. This looks like they're making big updates to a character's kit to actually get them into a more viable state. I thought that they were trying to beta test updates. I thought they were trying to beta test changes that we were going to see later on. Unfortunately, we got fucking baited. And I don't think we've actually been baited this hard before. And let me show you exactly what I'm talking about over here. Because this is what the buffs look like. Resonators deal 25% more damage. Brother, why did you even do this? Why did you even, like, make it look like it was going to be good and then put in the most boring shit anyone's ever seen in the game? Fortunately, though, not all of the buffs look this boring. A lot of characters just have this straight 25% damage increase, but some characters, like the sub DPS ones, actually have some stuff that's like a little bit interesting, right? So all isn't fully lost, but I think most people can agree we were expecting a lot more than this. And so what I actually wanted to do today was to talk about what we were expecting, talk about what would have been a lot better to actually see when it comes to character kit adjustments, and hopefully use this as a bit of a launching pad for the community and potentially for Kuro Games to actually talk about real meaningful changes that we can make for those 1.x units, as opposed to that flowery bullshit that we just saw before. And don't worry, guys, I've actually got a whole ass document that I prepared for every single unit that I think needs changes. And don't worry, we'll be going through them sequentially. Let me just get this little transition thing ready. All right, so first unit up, we got Jiyan. Y'all ready, ladies and gentlemen? We got Jiyan. So here's the list of changes that I'll make. So first things first, one of the big things about Jiyan is that he has a baseline resonance skill that can actually be enhanced via his Forte circuit. And as you're seeing over here, it says he consumes 30 or more resolve to increase the damage of this resonance skill Wind Queller by 20%. And when Jiyan is in Qinglong mode, the damage of resonance skill Wind Queller is increased by 20% and no longer consumes resolve. My take on the buff here is convert an enhanced Wind Queller to heavy attack damage. Because one of the actual downsides of Jiyan's kit is the fact that using his resonance skill during his liberation is actually a DPS loss, because it deals less damage than a single hit of his Qinglong swing. That's because it deals resonance skill damage when he's built for heavy attack. I would prefer if this enhanced skill simply deals heavy attack damage, so it's not a DPS loss, it's actually an increase to weave it in your rotation, and that just makes him feel more sensical to play. In all honesty, you probably would want to encourage the use of skills to actually optimize your DPS, not have characters thinking, oh, should I just skip this ability because it's actually causing it to go down. That's one of the changes. I think it would help out a lot for his gameplay, and of course his damage too. Second, change how his liberation works and make it more similar to Zani. One of the complications behind Jiyan's liberation is the fact that it operates in this way. It lasts for 10 seconds, and your goal is to do as many of these attacks as possible in that 10-second time frame. What if he simply had a set number of attacks that he could do, and then each attack consumed a meter that's full when he started his liberation? And then enhanced Wind Queller attacks don't consume these attacks. Basically, what I'm trying to say is change his liberation from, instead of having 10 seconds to deal as many attacks as possible and then really feeling punished when the enemy dodges, just give him 7, 8, or like 9 Qinglong attacks that all consume a certain amount of energy, and then when it runs out, the liberation ends. And when he squeezes in his dash attacks in the middle of the rotation, then they don't actually consume those attacks, and they deal the heavy attack damage. So, basically, let me kind of demonstrate for you live what I'm talking about over here. We're just going to go into like a beginner TOA floor just to like demonstrate what I'm talking about. Having consumption like Xiangli is going to help this character a lot more. Because one thing you notice right now is that when I use it, even if I'm not attacking, it's ticking down. And God forbid I ever have to dodge. Because that means my duration on my liberation is ticking down when I can't even attack. There's another thing that you noticed over here.
Don't you worry.
I just use my liberation, and afterwards, I have no energy.
I can take it.
Do you want to know what one of the biggest issues with this character is? It's liberating and then not being able to hit anything. Because look how much energy I get if I'm attacking over the entire liberation. Imagine not having this much energy. Imagine not having that much energy and just losing it and never being able to get it back. That's what happens when your liberation times out on this character and you haven't gotten the right number of hits in. And so, having his liberation operate where you liberate, right? And then each attack simply causes this meter to go down by a little bit. And then you can choose to dodge or move or use your skill to reposition. And then, like, attack when you want to. Wouldn't that just feel nicer? Because then you'd be able to do the same exact thing that you normally do, right? Just get off all the attacks as fast as possible. But you're not punished nearly as much if the enemy dashes away or you got to gap close or run up to them or something like that. And what I'm trying to say I really want is just something similar to how Xiangli works. And unfortunately, I will have to actually put Phoebe on the team to demonstrate this because Xiangli doesn't get enough blaze without Phoebe, but it's like, you know what I mean. It's not really related.
Answer me,
Let me just... You know why I'm doing this. Here we go, right? Boom, we got it. I'm talking about stuff like this, right? Whereas Xiangli, you can just walk around as much as you want, right? Look at the tracking here. Amazing tracking. And it only goes down when you attack. Just have it operate like this. Where, yes, if you grief your Xiangli rotation and you stay in this form for way too long, your clear time's gonna suck balls. Your goal still is to get off those attacks as fast as possible, but you at least have the freedom to get them off when you want, and you won't, like, grief your energy either if you can't hit the enemy, because you'll be able to hit them eventually by just waiting. The other things are just in line with exactly what I demonstrated before. Improve the tracking on his attacks to Xiangli level in his liberation form, with the gap closing and the ranged lock-on, and then also just increase the range of his attacks. Specifically, vertically. Just make the dragons go higher and let him hit stuff above him, right? Like, guys, you want to know what Jiyan does in lore? This is his first appearance in the fucking game. Are you ready for this? Surely, if he could do this, surely he can hit the Lampy Lumen during its jumps, right? If he can do this, surely he can hit the Lampy Lumen while it's jumping, right? Can we increase the vertical range of his Qinglong attacks? It wouldn't be that big of a deal, right? Can we agree on that? He can surely attack a little bit higher. This scene is pretty cool. How do people still say 1.0 was, like, actually that bad? This was in 1.0, by the way. That's a cutscene in 1.0. By the way. All right. So, that's going to be the changes on the quality of life side. Also, you got to add a proper time stop to his liberation. And this is what I mean. It's very easy to demonstrate this. And him and Yinlin have a similar issue. I don't know why, but like Jiyan and Yinlin both don't have proper time stops on their liberation. I'll just show you over here what it looks like. Check this out, right? You will like see the enemies moving by the time the cast is like still going. They start moving before you're done with the animation. Just go ahead and give them proper time stop where the enemies don't start moving before you do as a character. Because they can. For him and Yinlin. It's kind of just weird. But yeah, those are going to be the Jiyan changes. And as you can see, I'm asking for very, very little actual damage buffs over here. The only actual damage buff is from this, simply making his enhanced skill deal more heavy attack damage. However, I think the fact that he's going to be way less pressure to get off these attacks as fast as possible, and the fact he'll be able to weave these in without it being a DPS loss, that should actually increase his overall DPS in a way that doesn't just feel like a flat multiplier increase. He's just doing more attacks in a more intelligent way with the right typing. I think it's better. Now let's get to Yinlin. And don't worry, guys, I've got good changes over here for Yinlin. First one's gonna be, and I think I can just look at her from the character menu over here. So when it comes to her changes, first one's gonna be very simple. Make this liberation deal more damage. This shit is legitimately pathetic. I think it's the lowest damaging sub DPS liberation in the game. It's like actually 800%. It's giga bad. And when all this character does is damage, it needs to be higher. Because Yinlin is one of those sub DPSs. She does nothing. She provides nothing to the team outside of her outro skill. Literally nothing. That's it. Her supportive abilities end there. And so if that's all she's going to provide, she needs to deal more damage. Second, her judgment strikes, her marks, they need to explode on death and spread to nearby enemies. That's the change over here. Judgment marks spreads to nearby targets on death so that she doesn't need to reapply it in multi-wave content, because there's even multi-wave content in the TOA where it's really annoying when she has to reapply it because it takes her fucking forever. Just have it spread. Don't have it refresh the duration, but just have it spread. Because yes, it lasts 18 seconds. I don't think that she should have it forever, the entire fight, but just make it so that she only needs to apply it once a rotation, right? Even if there's multi-wave. Because right now she feels like poo-poo, bro. She legitimately feels like poo-poo. And of course, add a time stop or freeze to her Forte enhanced heavy attack. And this is going to require some gameplay demonstrations to actually show off. The two characters that I'll be using for comparison over here will be Carlotta and of course Yinlin. And you'll be able to see the exact difference I'm talking about over here. So, this is what it looks like when Yinlin, right, uses her enhanced heavy attack. Check this out. Enemies are hopping around and shit. This is what it looks like when Carlotta uses hers. Pay attention to the enemies. They freeze, and she basically becomes invulnerable during a vulnerable animation. She basically never takes damage during that. Can you just give that to this unit? I'm being honest. I don't... Can she just get that? You know what I mean? They're functionally like the same ability. They actually legitimately just feel like the same exact ability. Right? Just give her something, man. She should be allowed to be relatively invulnerable and not interrupted. You just spent all that time building up her fucking Forte circuit. And guys, building up Yinlin's Forte circuit has to be one of the most painful experiences in the game. And so can't we reward that pain by just giving her one iframe in her fucking kit? Surely we can, right? Surely we can. Increase her energy regen. Do you know why Yinlin's energy regen is actually so bad? I'll tell you exactly why. It's because of this issue over here. Because you want to know what Yinlin's judgment marks give? Energy. And if they disappear because they stopped attacking because you killed the enemy, guess what you won't have across your rotation? Energy from judgment marks hitting enemies. So actually, the reason why she has ER issues sometimes, but not all the time, is because her judgment marks are disappearing mid-rotation because the enemy died, and you're not getting the ER from those. That's why she has ER problems randomly. Because in Weewa, you've noticed, she never has ER issues. That's because she's hitting a fuck ton of enemies at once and then getting a lot of energy that way. And in TOA, against single target enemies that have a lot of HP, she never has ER issues. But in multi-wave content, right? Think, for example, a floor like this, or a floor like this one. Very easy for her to have ER issues when those fall off. So yeah, that's just another bit of a reason for why this change is so important. And of course, add a time stop or freeze to that enhanced heavy attack, and then have a proper time stop on her liberation too. Because guess what, guys? If you thought Jiyan's was a fucking issue, Get ready for this one. If you thought Jiyan's liberation and how much they're moving was an issue, just fucking check this shit out, bro.
Time to wrap it up.
Bro, like, you literally see them bowing down and moving as the lightning is hitting them. Why can't they just stay frozen until the animations are done? Why are they getting a head start? I can't even move yet. So yeah. Now, let's move on to our next character. And that's going to be Jinhsi. So, this is my take on Jinhsi. I don't actually think Jinhsi needs very much buffs at all. I think Jinhsi's biggest issue is her lack of a actual teammate. And the big issue with Jinhsi is the fact that she just has the most dog shit selection of outro skills in the game to work with. And I don't think anyone can disagree with that. These are Jinhsi's best fucking teammates. You have G-Jaw and Cantarella. And the most amp these two can give her is literally 25 fucking percent, which is dog shit compared to other characters that are getting 50. And so, I've said this numerous times. Jinhsi's poor performance isn't really the result of, like, her having issues. It's her teammates having issues. Because guess what type of outro skill we're just waiting for her? Look at this. Attack the target. Deal arrow, whatever. Grant 50% echo skill damage amplification. She just needs one that says 50% resonance skill. Yeah. She needs one that says 50% resonance skill damage amplification, and then that character needs to have resonance, or needs to have coordinated attacks, and they can't be Spectro. And then Jinhsi's good to go. I would probably also have an additional change on top of that. I would just convert her liberation damage to skill damage as well. I think that's what I would do. Maybe not if she is gonna get a fully powered one, because this is actually a pretty massive fucking motion value. It is one of the biggest motion values in the game, right? 1500. So maybe it's too high to have it be resonance skill. But, yeah, right now, she just doesn't have the raw buffing that she needs to, like, get the damage that she needs. And that's why she's falling behind a lot. So, I don't know. Maybe, like, turning something resonance skill in her kit would help out. Maybe, like, God forbid, reducing the motion value on this, but then making it resonance skill so that it scales better could also be an option. Yeah, because right now, I think if this is resonance skill damage, it's too much. Because imagine that with a 50% outro buff. I think it maybe goes down, but then can scale with resonance skill outro skills and then feel a bit better that way. That way, she just has a higher ceiling because Jinhsi's ceiling is a bit lower at the moment, comparatively. Second, her echo just is not very good. This is the Jue echo skill. The resonator gains 16% resonance skill damage for 15 seconds, right? It's decent, right? But it's not amazing from the perspective of other echo skills are just giving 24% damage bonus, right? 12% spectro, 12% resonance skill. That's what it would look like if this was a modern echo. Maybe just add Nightmare Jue and make it better. Maybe just get Nightmare Jue and make it better. That'd be good, right? That'd probably be helpful. It's also got a long-ass cooldown, too, so I kind of wish it was like 10 seconds, frankly. 20 seconds is kind of fucking long as well. So yeah, her echo skill is like straight up worse than other characters. She now has the worst echo skill out of the 1.x DPSs, because like, guys, these are better. These Nightmare echoes that the 1.x units have, they're better than Jue. Jue is honestly kind of dog shit, because, again, it's not even active half the time. So yeah. That's how I would buff Jinhsi. Now let's go ahead and take a look at Xiangli. And my buffs over here are very simple. I think she actually does need just straight multiplier increases. I'm gonna be real, brother. That ain't it. I'm sorry. I think she just needs higher multipliers. Like, for real, like, the character right now that just does not deal damage. When you play the Mono Fusion team, who are you least excited to play in the Mono Fusion team? It's Changli, right? You go on to Changli, and you're like, okay, time to deal no damage. When you're playing Mono Fusion, you're excited to play Brant because you actually get to do damage. Because you drop a 300k anchor. Changli's out here doing like 70k on her forte, bro. And yes, she casts it twice. Great, now you did 70k 2 times. Her ultimates motion value is decent, right? Actually quite good. I just think it should deal resonance skill damage. I'm gonna be real. I think it should deal resonance skill damage. And if it did, I don't even think she would be that much better. Because right now, you want to know what team she's on? No team. Changli is officially on no team. Because guess what? This team over here with, like, Brant and, what's it called? With, like, with Brant and Galbraina is so much better. It's so much better than having Changli on. So what's the fucking point? What's the point? So yeah, I'm just saying, fully lean into her resonance skill typing and just buff her motion values. They're just straight up fucking low. They're just low. And yes, sure, this might make her broken in quick swap. Great, I don't care. I don't fucking care, bro. Nobody's playing this unit anyways. Yeah, quick swap teams are still the fastest clearers in the game. Does it really matter? Anyways, that's gonna be Changli. Now let's move on to Ji-Ja. When it comes to Ji-Ja, my changes are pretty simple. Just giving her more ability to tackle AoE content. And some damage buffs. So, my take is this. Cause her Inklet spirits to detonate when they hit the target and actually explode in a pretty wide radius. Because she summons about 21 of them, and their AoE is non-existent. And so in Weewa, she does literally nothing. Like, she will hit 20 enemies for 65% each. That's like hitting nobody. That's how single target oriented she is. So having these blow up when they hit the target and actually dealing meaningful AoE damage, I don't think that that's big of a deal. That's that big of a deal. I don't even know why this character has such a big single target focus in the first place. I don't see the reason for it. It's not like she needs that weakness because she's not particularly strong in the first place. So yeah, I think it's just an unnecessary restriction built into her kit that we're just trying to rectify over here by making this actually AoE. Second, smooth out or just remove her jump cancel. One of the things with Zhezhi's kit is that she has this thing called a Zhezhi jump cancel, which lets her rotate extremely fast if you're able to trigger it properly. And the thing is that it's extremely inconsistent to trigger properly because in some arenas, you'll be able to do it. For example, right, if I go against like a tactical hologram, oh, super easy to do Zhezhi jump cancels. Fuck it, I'll just go against the goddamn fallacy right now real fast. Level 1, because I don't feel like getting murked like that. Like, it's the jump cancel where you just simply get out all of her shit, and then you, like, jump in between. And I kind of fucked that one up over there, but you get what I'm talking about, right? That second jump can be so inconsistent to get working well. I'd kind of just rather you either decrease the time at a baseline and remove the cancel, or just make the cancel more consistent to perform. Because right now, it kind of just feels like you sometimes get it and you sometimes don't. And when the difference between you using it and not using it is like 4 seconds in your rotation time, I'm going to be real over here. Perhaps like a little bit more consistency would just make more sense to smooth that out. Second, when it comes to Zhezhi, I actually think it would be really cool and kind of thematic if she got a similar stacking mechanic to Frolova. And this is my take on a similar stacking mechanic to Frolova. So basically, Frolova has this thing called Aftersound, where every time teammates use an echo skill, she gains stacking stat bonuses. I think it would be cool if Zhezhi got like a stacking mechanic on her coordinated attacks, where the more she summons, or basically the longer the fight goes, the more her coordinated attacks end up dealing over time. Because it's like, thematically, she's like an artist, and she's making like a growing gallery of paintings. So the more paintings she makes, the more damage she does in a fight. They like kind of make sense, right? It's like, it's kind of cool once you think about it. So like adding that in for like flavor, I guess, if they want, for fun. That's basically it. But otherwise, I don't even think it's necessary. You could just buff her motion values too. But this is like a tasteful and kind of like neat way of buffing her damage as well. I think the idea of her art dealing more damage the more art she has, I think that's just kind of neat. Doesn't really matter. Anyways, now we got Xiangli Yao. And my buffs over here are quite simple for Xiangli Yao. Xiangli Yao has, without a doubt, the most clunky Sonata set in the game. And the reason for that is quite simple. Void Thunder is just fucked. It gives a 15% damage bonus when you use a skill, and then you get a 15% damage bonus when you use a heavy attack. You can't just use a skill twice or use a heavy attack twice to get its bonus. And so what that means is that Xiangli has to start his rotation by like doing this. He intro skills in, then has to skill, and then do his heavy attack, and then cancel the heavy attack with his liberation. It's just fucked and feels really fucking dumb to play, but you just have to do it every single time you play him. And so it kind of just wastes time in your rotation. Like, you just lose minus half a second for no reason. Other than because the set said you had to do it. There's no reason for it other than it's because the set said that I had to do it. I just think that's a little bit retarded. So yeah, a replacement Sonata set that does not require a heavy attack to trigger its full effects. Because that shit is buns. Second, convert all of his damage to liberation damage when he's in intuition. Just make everything deal liberation damage. I think I think that might be it. Convert the entire thing to liberation damage, and then I guess like increase maybe hypercube damage by like 20% or something like that. But you probably would be able to lever this down after making this change, right? And then seeing where it lands. It's just stuff like this where I wanted to see changes like this, where it's actual experimentation, right? Where it's creative, where it actually looks to solve the problems in the characters' kits. And then we play around with those and then see how they land. You can see over here, we're trying to be at least a little bit creative with these. And hopefully you're beginning to see where the solutions are. But yeah, those are going to be the Xiangli Yao updates. And now, Camellya. My suggested changes for Camellya are something like this. You could just convert her liberation damage to basic attack. That could be a very solid change. Or you just release an actual sub DPS unit for her that isn't dog shit. Or you buff Roccia. Because my take on Camellya is that she is a fine character. She feels great, but she just still hasn't met her full potential because her tailored sub DPS that got released for her is a steaming pile of dog shit, and that's Roccia. So, once again, this character isn't on Kuro's buff list in Doubled Pawns Matrix. I don't think there's a reason to. I think this unit is actually fine. Great levels of performance. But this character that was released to specifically buff Camellya because Camellya is a Havoc basic attacker, she's a piece of garbage. So let's talk about how we would fix Roccia. First things first, her damage needs to go up like crazy. I am in disbelief that a character is able to deal this little damage with their rotation while taking up this much fucking time. She needs to deal more damage when she uses all of her abilities. This whole, like, going in, doing absolutely fucking nothing, it just can't really work. It just can't really work. Second, reduce the stat requirement for her dog shit 200 attack buff. What the fuck is this? Why does she need 70% crit rate for 200 attack when, like, Jiyan needs 65% crit rate for 30% crit damage, and Linne doesn't need anything for 24% all attribute? Guess what's better, guys? 24% all attribute damage or 200 flat attack? Which one's better, guys? It's this one. And you want to know what else? It's got a lower stat requirement. Nothing. So this character with a higher stat requirement has a worse buff. So this is my take. Just remove this fucking stat requirement and then just change it to an actual useful stat. My suggestion is, can you just explicitly make her work with Camellya? Because this character is so useless, she even got replaced in the fucking Frolova team. Turn her dog shit 200 attack buff to 10% crit and 10% attack. Because you want to know what character in the game desperately fucking needs crit rate? This unit. Because she has no crit rate in her skill tree. And even with double crit on every echo, she never cracks 70%. So just make Roccia's buff give 10% crit and like 10% attack. And believe me, guys, this character is then really good. If she gets a damage buff and then her buff becomes this character is now really good. But currently, she's dog shit. As you can see over here, this was the type of buff, this was the type of thought that I expected when I saw those mock-ups, when I saw all the work that was getting put into Doubled Pawns Matrix before. And one thing I can safely say is that I think the approach taken by Kuro Games is some of the most boring shit I've ever seen. And maybe the reason for that is that these developers need some additional creativity, need some additional thinking juices for how to, you know, revamp some of the kits in the game because they're so busy with 3.0, right? Or maybe they just don't give a fuck, and I'm just talking into the void. But we'll just see. Because I'm hoping that this isn't the end for resonator enhancements in Doubled Pawns Matrix. I'm hoping that Kuro comes out with the more fleshed out system for this in the future. Because there's a massive amount of potential here to make meaningful, great changes to the game. And if they don't want to utilize this opportunity, that would be a huge shame. And the reason that we're making this video is to highlight how much potential there actually is. Because Doubled Pawns Matrix, ladies and gentlemen, is the hardest endgame mode we've had in the history of the game. There is no better environment to test out buffs to a unit than by putting them into the hardest content you can possibly play. Because otherwise, if you only test it out in baby shit, you don't actually know what's needed when the pedal, you know, hits the metal and like shit actually gets grindy and stuff actually gets hard. But if we're not going to use that opportunity here, why even have this idea of buffs in the first place to raise the player base's hopes? So we'll see. Hopefully this video can be used as a bit of a launching pad for a future discussion. But this is my take on how I think resonator enhancements, buffs for 1.x units, this is how I think they should be done. Let me know what you all thought. Peace out.